Well, let's expand a little bit about those political issues, Nader Baghazadeh, that our guest there in Beirut said. Interestingly, maybe some people don't know, this is a 5-point package covering a comprehensive range of nuclear and non-nuclear issues that Iran has proposed. And of course, when we look at some of these things in there, it also involves Israel nuclear arsenal. So the Israel factor is part of this picture. On your last comment there about the presidential elections in the U.S. Is this a P5+1 effort, or is it just a U.S. effort? Please differentiate for us who's driving this.
Yes. I think you have to realize that everything is focused on the November election. There will be absolutely no statement by the Obama administration to accept enrichment. It would be unbelievably difficult to assume that. What I think the Obama administration wants is to get the 20% stopped, as if they should have accepted it 2 years ago when the Turks and the Brazilians had that agreement. Well, that's a past opportunity. Now there's an opportunity to stop the 20%. They can still say that the pressure is on. None of the sanctions will go away, as you have seen from the announcement made yesterday, that even if there's an agreement, U.S. will not cut down on those sanctions. So that would strengthen the Obama's position. So when he has a debate with Romney, he could say that we got the 20% stopped and we still have the sanctions. What he could do is to allow the Europeans to not have the sanctions effective this summer, and perhaps provide more waivers to the countries that are wanting to buy oil from Iran, like South Korea and others. So this is what the U.S. hand is to do, and that's what he needs before the November election. Anything else, he will not be able to make a good case for the strong conservative and the lobby in Washington. So that's the angle from, I think, the Obama's administration. From Romney's point of view, I think he would definitely say that, look, we have to put the pressure on. We have to follow Mr. Netanyahu's position because they have been friends for 30 years. And so there's really a major difficulty here, because whatever agreement that Iran has with the P5+1, come November, things may not be the same. And that's what I mentioned earlier. I think that is really the complication in terms of what can be accepted. I mean, if you look back at the Algiers Accord was very clear of non-intervention, and administrations change, and the West doesn't follow with that particular agreement. So there is a major concern in terms of change of position when the new set of people come to power. And as you can see in France, there is probably some change of heart by Mr. Hollande, and we don't know what's going on inside those meetings, but maybe he's not as hard on Iran as Mr. Sarkozy was. So we have to put all of that into equation in terms of what the negotiations are. In terms of Israel, I think they have to join the NPT. Unfortunately, they have been resisting that. It's very difficult to assume that a country that is not a member of NPT is questioning other people's rights under NPT. I saw a line somewhere that Mr. Ehud Barak had said that we will not permit Iran to do this and that. This is absolutely ridiculous. To say that another country does not permit Iran to have any enrichment when they're not a member of NPT, I don't know. I mean, this is really ridiculous.
Well, let's elaborate more on that. James Fetzer, if maybe you can do that for us, because regarding the NPT, well, let's look at what happened with NATO and the conference they had, the summit. The leaders just signed off on a high-profile review of NATO's deterrence posture that maintains actually nuclear weapons as a key means of deterrence. Now, isn't that in violation of the NPT? Doesn't that bring into the picture the credibility of these countries who are involved in here?
Yes, it's completely hypocritical. The United States is actually using enriched uranium weapons in Iraq, and Israel has 200 to 600 of these little beauties. Well, Israel has not signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Israel has not allowed inspectors. In fact, we have here in the United States the political complication that Senators Joe Lieberman and Lindsey Graham are sponsoring legislation that would entitle the administration to take any action it deemed appropriate against any country that had the capability of developing nuclear weapons. But that term capability is not defined and could cover even the theoretical knowledge possessed by physicists on the faculties of their universities who could have that knowledge that might enable it to be done if it could be implemented technologically. 20% enrichment is a far different matter than the 80% or greater enrichment required for nuclear weapons. The order of magnitude is enormous. All of this business, I am convinced, has a great deal more to do with Iran selling oil in multiple currencies and no longer supporting the dollar. Think of what happened to Saddam Hussein in Iraq when they abandoned the petrodollar, or Muammar Gaddafi in Libya when they proposed to go to the gold dinar. There are economic aspects of this that are driving the agenda, but the political dimension in the United States has to be factored in as well.
Well, Omar Nashmi, maybe you could elaborate more on that for us, because when it comes down to this uranium enrichment or any other extraneous factors on Iran's civilian nuclear program, it's really what many have said is a political issue. And of course, the negative consequences for the West has been the oil factor, of which they're suffering from. So is that a drive for the West in terms of the P5+1 coming into the talks?
Yes. Well, first, I just want to comment briefly that in addition to the fact that, as a professor from California just indicated, in addition to the fact that Israel has not signed the NPT, Israel has been threatening Iran, and this threat is apparently a serious threat. They have been threatening of bombing Iran, and the Israelis have earlier in the 80s bombed nuclear sites in Iraq. And therefore this threat is a serious threat, and I think there are some moves inside Israel for a national coalition, and this internal national coalition is also an indicator that whenever Israel is in a situation where it needs to go to war, they create this kind of national coalition. So therefore a threat is not acceptable by international law or by any standards. So this is completely outrageous. And I think that they want to show in some circles in international diplomacy that Iran is presenting an initiative today and is acting positively because it's under pressure or it's under threat from the Israelis and under threat of being bombed, and its sites are under threat of being bombed. However, everybody knows, and the Americans know very well, and the Israelis too, that they're starting to realize more and more that bombing Iran is not a matter that can be taken lightly. It will create a problem for the whole region. It will create a problem for the Gulf. It will spread into neighboring countries. It will actually also spread into the front between Lebanon and occupied Palestine. It will create damage for everybody. These threats are really matters that need to be taken seriously, and I have been in China last week, and I have asked some officials in the Foreign Office in China, and they have stated that such a move would be devastating for the whole region.
Okay, then let me bring in Nader Baghazadeh for a final thought. Nader Baghazadeh, not a breakthrough, you think, or a breakthrough, given the geopolitical situation, given the oil market, given the countries involved in the P5+1 who are broke, in this case, coming into the talks?
I think the Europeans want a breakthrough, and I think, as I mentioned, Obama wants a breakthrough in terms of having the saying that 20% has been stopped, and the sanctions are still on, so he has a very strong hand. And the Europeans, Ashton Carter said, this is the beginning of the end. So I have a feeling that they have a positive attitude towards this, but they have to be honest, and confidence building is mutual. This can go forward, not all the things they want. Closing of the Fordo is out of question, in my opinion, judging from what I know and what I've read. But stopping 20% is probably something achievable if Europeans stop the sanctions starting July 1. I think that is a very good position to be, and that would be a nice agreement. And I think, as one of your guests mentioned, there should be multiple meetings. This is just a beginning. It cannot be once every 1.5 years. There should be more discussions at the working level. And so let's hope things will move forward for everybody's benefit.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me thank my guest, Professor Emeritus, University of Minnesota, James Fetzer, from Al-Akhbar newspaper, Omar Nashbi, and you were just listening to Professor at the University of California, Nader Barghazadeh. And thank you for watching another edition of the Press TV News Analysis. Newsroom@presstv.ir is our email address for any comments or suggestions. From Miko Atapli and the entire team here in the capital, Tehran, it's goodbye.